He notices it gradually, without any sudden realization. At first, everything feels almost normal. The street looks the way it always has. The buildings stand in familiar places. The light falls at a steady angle. Nothing feels broken. Nothing feels wrong. He walks forward at a slow, unhurried pace. His steps make a soft sound against the ground. That sound becomes the only movement he can sense. As he continues walking, he begins to notice the stillness. Not silence, but stillness. A deeper absence of change. Cars are stopped in the middle of the street. Not parked, not abandoned. Simply paused. The person stands near a doorway, one hand lifted slightly, as if about to open it. Another person is frozen mid-step, one foot raised, never reaching the ground. He stops walking for a moment. He looks around carefully. Nothing moves. The light does not shift. The shadows remain exactly where they are. The air feels settled, as if it has not been disturbed for a long time. He takes another step, then another. Time does not respond. There is no wind, no distant noise, no subtle motion at the edges of things. Leaves on nearby trees remain perfectly still. Not a single one moves or falls. They hang exactly as they are, suspended without effort. He walks past a shop window. Inside, objects remain arranged neatly. A cup is held just above a table, never touching it. A door inside the shop is half open, never swinging further. He does not feel afraid. There is no rush of emotion, only a calm curiosity, slow and gentle. He continues walking. The street stretches ahead in a straight line. Buildings repeat themselves in simple patterns. Doors, windows, signs. Everything is present. Nothing progresses. As he walks, he realizes that the world is not empty. It is full, completely full, and completely unmoving. He passes another person. Their face shows no expression of surprise or fear. Their eyes are open, unfocused, looking nowhere in particular. He pauses again, just long enough to notice that even his own pause feels optional. Nothing around him requires a response. Time is not waiting. Time is not paused. Time is simply absent. He resumes walking. Each step feels the same as the one before. There is no sense of distance being covered. The ground does not seem to resist or assist. He walks past intersections where traffic lights glow steadily. Green, yellow, red, all at once, without change. He looks up at the sky. The clouds remain fixed in place. Their shapes do not stretch or shift. They do not drift. The sun hangs at a single point, neither rising nor setting. Its warmth feels even and constant. He continues forward, unhurried. There is no destination in mind, no plan, no reason to stop or to hurry. He walks simply because walking is the only thing that still moves. The city continues around him in perfect stillness. Street after street, corner after corner. Nothing begins, nothing ends. And so he keeps walking, into the quiet world where time has stopped, and nothing asks him to do anything at all. He continues walking through the city, moving without any clear direction. The streets extend calmly in every direction. They do not invite. They do not resist. They simply exist. Each street looks similar to the one before. Rows of buildings, windows repeating at even intervals, doors closed, half open, or caught in the exact moment before movement. He walks past a bakery. Inside, shelves are full. Bread rests on trays. Nothing cools. Nothing grows stale. A person stands behind the counter. Their hands are placed carefully on the surface. Their posture never changes. He walks on. The pavement beneath his feet feels solid and consistent. It does not crack. It does not shift. Each step lands exactly as expected. Time does not respond. He passes a small park. Children are frozen in the middle of motion. A ball floats just above the ground, never landing. A dog stands mid-run, its body stretched forward, never completing the movement. Trees stand without motion. Branches do not sway. Leaves do not fall. He walks through the park slowly. His footsteps are the only change. Even that change feels small. At the far edge of the park, benches line a path. People sit on them, unmoving. Some are leaning forward. Some are resting back. None of them breathe in a way he can notice. He does not linger. There is no reason to. The city continues. He reaches another street. This one is narrower. Tall buildings rise on both sides. Their shadows remain fixed against the walls. Light does not shift. Shade does not move. He walks beneath balconies filled with plants. The plants remain green and still. Water rests inside pots, never evaporating. A window above him is open. Curtains are lifted slightly, as if caught by wind that never arrives. He continues walking. Shops repeat. Cafes, clothing stores, small offices. Inside each space, objects wait. Chairs are pulled halfway back. Papers lie in neat stacks. Computer screens glow softly, never changing. He notices that nothing shows signs of decay. Food does not spoil. Metal does not rust. Dust does not gather. The world is preserved without effort. He walks through an intersection. Cars remain stopped. Some are close enough that he can see the reflections in their windows. The reflections never change. Traffic lights hang overhead. Their colors remain fixed. No cycle, no sequence. He crosses the street carefully, though there is no danger. Habit remains, even when time does not. He reaches a long avenue. It stretches far into the distance. The same buildings repeat again and again. Streetlights stand evenly spaced. Each one glows softly. He walks for a long time, or what would have been a long time, if time still existed. There is no sense of distance, no feeling of fatigue. His body moves easily. He passes a bookstore. Inside, shelves stretch upward. Books line the walls. Titles remain unread. Pages remain paused mid-turn. He opens a book briefly. The paper feels real. The words stay exactly where they are. He places the book back where it was. He continues walking. The city does not end. It simply continues. Street after street, block after block. Sometimes the streets widen, sometimes they narrow, but nothing truly changes. He walks past a hotel. Inside the lobby, lights glow warmly. A suitcase stands near the desk. A bell rests beneath a hand that never rings it. He moves through the lobby. The air feels still. Even sound seems suspended. His footsteps remain the only motion. He exits the hotel and returns to the street. There is no sense of urgency, no pressure to explore everything. Nothing will be missed. He walks because walking still works. He passes another park, another set of shops, another row of buildings. The repetition feels calming, predictable, safe. Nothing unexpected happens. Nothing needs to happen. He realizes that this world does not ask for decisions. There are no consequences, no deadlines, no arrivals, only movement through stillness. He continues forward, walking through the city where time has stopped, where streets repeat gently. And nothing ever asks him to hurry. He walks until the buildings begin to thin. The city does not end suddenly, it loosens. The streets widen. The spaces between buildings grow larger. He notices fewer windows, fewer doors, more open areas where nothing waits. The pavement becomes simpler, lines fade, painted markings remain frozen, half-worn, never fading further. He walks past the final row of tall buildings. Behind them, the city remains exactly as it was. Ahead, the space opens, a road stretches outward. Long, straight, quiet. Cars stand still along its edges. Some are pulled over. Some are stopped mid-lane. Their engines do not hum. Their lights do not dim. He walks between them without concern. The road feels endless. It does not curve. It does not rise. It simply continues forward. On either side, fields begin. Grass stands upright and motionless. Each blade holds its shape perfectly. There is no wind, no insects, no movement at all. He walks alongside the road for a long time, or what would have been a long time. Distance does not feel meaningful. He does not grow tired. His steps remain steady and even. He passes a sign pointing toward distant towns. The names remain printed clearly. The arrows never guide anyone. Beyond the fields, trees stand in quiet groups. Their branches do not sway. Leaves remain suspended exactly as they are. He walks toward them. The ground beneath his feet changes gradually, from pavement to dirt, from dirt to packed earth. Each step lands softly. Nothing shifts beneath him. He enters the trees. The forest feels open and still. Light filters through branches without moving. Shadows remain fixed against trunks and ground. He walks between trees, spaced evenly apart. The path is visible, though no one has walked it for a long time. Or perhaps everyone is still walking it, paused forever. A bird rests on a branch. Its wings are half open. It never completes the motion. He passes beneath it. The forest continues. Tree after tree, the same distance between trunks, the same quality of light. Nothing thickens, nothing thins. He reaches a clearing. Grass spreads out evenly. Rocks rest exactly where they are. Nothing shows signs of erosion. He crosses the clearing slowly. On the far side, the forest opens again. A railway track appears. The rails stretch straight into the distance. A train rests upon them. Cars connected neatly. Doors closed. Windows dark. He walks alongside the train. It does not hum. It does not vibrate. It waits without waiting. Inside, passengers sit frozen. Some look forward. Some rest their heads back. None of them move. He continues walking past the train until it ends. The track continues on without it. He steps between the rails. The metal feels cool, solid, unchanging. He follows the track for a while. There is no destination marked. No station ahead. No schedule. Only direction. The land around the track remains open. Fields return, then hills. The hills rise gently. Their slopes remain perfectly defined. No shadows slide across them. He walks up one hill slowly. The ground does not resist. At the top, the view remains wide and clear. Below him, the land stretches outward. Roads, fields, small clusters of buildings, all frozen. He stands there briefly. Or perhaps he does not stand at all. Standing and walking feel similar here. He continues forward. The road returns again. Then another set of trees. Then open land once more. The world repeats calmly. Not exactly the same, but close enough to feel familiar. There is no sense of being lost. There is no sense of arriving. Only movement through a place that does not change. He walks on, through roads and forests and open land, through a world held gently in stillness, where time has no reason to return. He continues walking until the railway becomes the only clear path forward. The rails stretch endlessly in both directions. They do not curve, they do not rise, they simply remain. He walks beside them at first, then between them, then beside them again. Each step feels the same. The ground does not soften. It does not harden. It remains consistent and reliable. The train tracks lead him toward a station. It appears gradually, not suddenly. First a platform edge, then a roof, then signs that name places that no longer require names. The station is full, completely full, and completely still. Passengers stand in lines. Some sit on benches. Some lean slightly forward, frozen mid-motion. A clock hangs above the platform. Its hands remain fixed. They do not point to any meaningful time. He walks along the platform slowly. His footsteps echo softly. The sound fades quickly, absorbed by the still air. A train rests at the platform. Its doors are open. No one enters. No one exits. He steps inside. The interior feels quiet and contained. Rows of seats extend evenly. Passengers sit without movement. Their eyes remain open or closed, unchanged. Luggage rests beside them. A coat hangs half-slipped from a shoulder. Nothing falls. He walks down the aisle. Each step takes him past another frozen moment. A hand raised slightly, a head turned part way, a page held open, never turning. He exits the train at the far end. The platform continues. Beyond the station, another set of tracks waits. Then another station. Then another. The pattern repeats gently. Station, train, platform, track. Each one slightly different. Each one essentially the same. He moves through them without counting. Counting feels unnecessary. At one station, the ceiling is high and arched. At another, it is low and flat. At another, it opens directly to the sky. Light remains constant in all of them. No shadows move, no brightness changes. He walks through waiting rooms. Rows of chairs face the same direction. Screens glow softly with information that never updates. Departures, arrivals, times that do not matter. He passes a cafe inside a station. Cups rest on tables. Steam hangs above a mug, never rising further. A spoon remains mid-stir. He does not stop. He walks through corridors that connect platforms. Stairs lead upward. Escalators stand frozen mid-motion. He walks beside them. His pace never changes. Outside one station, the tracks lead into open land. Outside another, they pass through tunnels. Inside the tunnels, darkness remains even and complete. Lights inside the tunnel glow steadily. They do not flicker. They do not dim. He walks through the tunnel calmly. The air feels cool and unchanged. At the far end, daylight appears. The same daylight as before, unmoved. The stations continue. Some are small, only a single platform. Some are vast, multiple levels, multiple paths. He walks through all of them. There is no fatigue, no hunger, no sense of effort. The repetition becomes comforting. Platform, hall, track, train. He notices that even the idea of direction fades. Forward and backward feel identical. Only movement remains. He passes through a station filled with glass. Reflections rest perfectly. They do not shift as he moves. He passes through another built of stone. The walls feel solid and permanent. Time does not touch any of it. He walks across bridges that span empty space. Below, roads remain frozen. Cars stopped. People paused. He walks down stairways, up stairways, through doors, through open air. The stations do not end. They simply continue. Some are connected by long corridors, others by open tracks, others by underground passages. He walks through all of them without choosing. Every path leads forward. Eventually, the distinction between station and track softens. They blend together. Spaces lose clear boundaries. Walking feels like the only definition left. The world remains intact, preserved, quiet. He continues moving, through platforms and trains and empty halls, through a world that repeats gently, where time does not return and nothing ever asks him to stop. He moves away from the stations and into the buildings that surround them. The transition feels smooth. There is no clear boundary between outside and inside. Only a gradual change in space. He enters the first building through wide doors. They are open. They remain open. They do not swing or close behind him. Inside, the air feels still and even. It holds no temperature. It carries no scent. The floor stretches out in a clean, uninterrupted line. Walls rise evenly on both sides. Lights glow softly from above. He walks forward. The building appears to be a hotel. A reception desk stands near the entrance. A person stands behind it, frozen mid-motion. One hand rests on the surface. The other holds a card that is never handed over. Behind the desk, Keys hang neatly. None of them move. None of them sway. He walks past the desk without stopping. The lobby opens into a wide space. Chairs are arranged carefully. Tables sit between them. Nothing is out of place. A magazine lies open on one table. Its pages do not turn. The image on the page remains unchanged. He walks across the lobby. His footsteps echo softly. The sound fades quickly. Corridors extend in multiple directions. They look similar. He chooses one without thinking. The corridor stretches forward. Doors line both sides. Each door is closed or slightly open. None of them change. He walks past the doors slowly. Room after room. Number after number. Some rooms are dark. Some are lit. The light inside them remains constant. He steps into one room. Inside, the space is simple. A bed, a chair, a small table. Curtains hang beside a window. The curtains are caught mid-motion, as if they were just moved. They do not fall further. He leaves the room and returns to the corridor. The corridor continues, then turns, then continues again. Stairs appear. They lead upward. He walks up them at the same steady pace. At the top, another hallway waits. It looks almost identical to the one below. He walks through it. The building does not end quickly. It unfolds slowly, floor after floor, hallway after hallway. Eventually, he finds another set of doors. Beyond them, a different building begins. This one feels quieter. The ceilings are higher. Shelves line the walls. It is a library. Rows of books extend into the distance. Each shelf is full. Every book remains exactly where it was placed. Tables sit between the shelves. Chairs are pulled out slightly. A person sits at one table, frozen mid-read. A hand rests on an open page. The page never turns. He walks between the shelves. Titles repeat. Subjects repeat. History, geography, fiction. None of them change. He takes a book from a shelf. The motion feels normal. The book feels solid in his hands. He opens it. The words remain still. They do not fade. They do not shift. He places the book back exactly where it was. He continues walking. The library stretches on, room after room, shelf after shelf. Eventually, the shelves thin. The space opens. Another set of doors appears. Beyond them, offices begin. Desks line the rooms. Chairs are positioned neatly. Papers rest in careful stacks. Computer screens glow softly. The images on them do not update. A clock hangs on the wall. Its hands do not move. He walks through the offices slowly. Past desks, past rooms, past frozen figures. No one notices him. No one reacts. The building connects to another, then another. Some spaces feel residential. Others feel public. All of them feel the same in one way. They do not change. He walks through apartments. Living rooms remain arranged. Televisions glow silently. Couches hold their shape. In kitchens, cups sit on counters. Water rests in sinks. Nothing drips. Nothing spills. He moves through hallways that connect buildings together. Glass passages, concrete passages, underground passages. Each one feels calm. Each one feels endless. He stops noticing differences. The spaces blend together. Room, hallway, staircase, door. They repeat gently. There is no sense of progress, no sense of exploration, only movement through preserved space. He continues walking, through hotels and libraries and offices and homes, through rooms that hold no urgency, through a world that remains intact and quiet, where time has stopped, and nothing ever asks him to leave. He leaves the buildings behind without noticing a clear moment of transition. The city thins, walls give way to open space. The ground stretches wider with each step. Ahead, the land opens into fields that extend calmly in every direction. Grass stands upright and motionless. Each blade holds its position perfectly. There is no wind, no ripple, no sound beyond his footsteps. He walks forward at the same steady pace. The ground does not resist, it does not soften. It remains consistent beneath him. The fields continue for a long distance, or what would have been a long distance if distance still mattered. He reaches a line of trees. They stand evenly spaced, as if arranged deliberately. Branches do not sway, leaves do not fall. He walks between the trees, light filters through them without shifting. Shadows remain fixed on the ground. The forest feels open, not dense, not tangled. Paths appear naturally, without being worn down. He follows one path, then another. They feel identical. Occasionally, a bird rests on a branch. Its wings are half open. It does not complete the motion. Its position remains unchanged as he passes beneath it. The forest does not grow darker. It does not brighten. The light remains even and constant. He continues walking. The trees gradually thin. The land opens again. Ahead, the ground slopes gently downward. The air feels the same. Nothing cools. Nothing warms. At the base of the slope, water appears. A wide body of water stretches outward. Its surface is perfectly smooth. No waves, no ripples. The water reflects the sky exactly as it is. The reflection does not distort. It does not move. He walks along the shore slowly. Footprints do not form. The ground remains unchanged behind him. The water does not respond. It does not lap against the edge. It does not pull away. Farther out, boats rest on the surface. They do not drift. They do not turn. He steps closer to the water. The surface remains calm. His reflection rests clearly, unbroken. He does not enter the water. There is no reason to. He continues along the shoreline. The water extends for a long time, then gradually narrows, then opens again. Eventually, the land rises. The water falls behind him. He walks upward along a gentle incline. The ground becomes rockier. Stones rest where they are, untouched by erosion. The incline becomes a hill. Then another. Then a series of gentle rises. From the top of one hill, he can see far into the distance. Fields, forests, water, all frozen. He does not linger. Standing and walking feel similar here. He moves on. The land becomes drier. Grass thins. Soil appears pale and even. A wide, open plain stretches ahead. No vegetation, no markings, just open ground. The surface shows no cracks, no signs of heat or cold. It remains neutral. He walks across the plain. Each step feels the same as the last. There is no fatigue, no urgency. The plain continues, then slowly gives way to sand. A desert spreads outward. The sand lies smooth and undisturbed. No dunes shift, no grains move. Footprints do not appear. The surface remains perfect. He walks through the desert at the same pace. The sun remains fixed in the sky. Its position does not change. Its warmth remains constant. Shadows lie exactly where they are. They do not stretch or shorten. The desert feels calm, predictable, safe. After a long stretch, stone returns. The ground rises again. Mountains appear ahead. Their shapes are sharp and clear. No clouds gather around them. No mist forms. He walks toward the mountains. The path upward is gradual. The ground does not crumble. Rocks remain steady beneath his feet. He climbs without effort. The air feels unchanged. Breathing remains easy and even. From higher ground, the view opens again. The world stretches outward in all directions. Frozen, complete. He walks along a ridge, then descends. On the other side, forests return, then fields, then open land again. The order changes. The feeling does not. Nature repeats itself calmly, without urgency, without variation that matters. There is no sense of completion, no sense of discovery, only movement through a world that remains exactly as it is. He continues walking. Through forests and water and stone and sand, through landscapes that do not respond, through a world held gently in stillness, where time does not return and nothing ever asks him to stop. He continues walking without noticing a change in direction. The landscape shifts gently, almost without transition. Fields give way to quiet roads. Roads return to open land. Nothing feels new. Nothing feels finished. He walks along a narrow road bordered by low stone walls. The stones rest perfectly in place. No cracks widen. No edges crumble. The road stretches forward. It does not curve sharply. It does not rise suddenly. It remains predictable. He passes small structures spaced far apart. Sheds, empty houses, buildings with doors slightly open. Inside them, objects remain still. Tools rest where they were last placed. Chairs stand near tables. Windows hold the same light. He does not stay. There is no reason to. The road leads him toward another town. It appears gradually. A few buildings at first, then more. The town feels similar to the city he left behind. Smaller, quieter, but preserved in the same way. People stand in streets. Some are mid-step. Some are leaning against walls. None of them move. Shops line the road. Signs hang above doors. Letters remain clear and readable. He walks past them slowly. Inside one shop, shelves hold identical items arranged in rows. Nothing is missing. Nothing is out of order. He walks on. The town ends as gently as it began. Buildings thin. Open space returns. The road becomes gravel, then dirt, then simply a path worn into the ground. He follows it. The path leads through low hills, then through a shallow valley, then up again. Each change happens without effort, without resistance. The air feels the same everywhere. It does not cool at night. It does not warm during the day. It simply remains. He walks through another forest. This one feels familiar. The spacing between trees repeats. The light remains even. He notices that he no longer compares places. Forest feels like field. Field feels like road. Everything feels consistent. Movement becomes the only difference. He walks past a small body of water, then another, then none at all. He walks past rocks scattered across open ground. Each rock rests exactly where it is. None of them shift or roll. He walks through another settlement, then another. Some have narrow streets, some have wide ones. All of them remain quiet. The repetition feels gentle, reassuring. Nothing surprises him. Nothing demands attention. He realizes that he is no longer observing details. He still sees them, but they no longer stand out. Windows are windows. Doors are doors. Streets are streets. He continues walking. Time does not press against him. Distance does not accumulate. He passes beneath bridges, across bridges, through tunnels. The light remains constant inside them all. He notices that even his footsteps feel softer, less distinct, as if sound itself is slowly losing interest. He walks through another station, then another, then through open land again. The boundaries between places soften. Stations feel like buildings. Buildings feel like landscapes. Everything blends. He keeps moving because movement remains possible, because nothing stops him, because nothing suggests stopping. The world does not respond. It does not resist. It does not invite. It simply remains. He walks on. There is no sense of nearing an end, no sense of needing one. Only the steady continuation of motion through stillness. He continues walking, through towns and paths and open land, through spaces that repeat gently, through a world that holds its shape without effort, where time has stopped completely, and nothing ever asks him to arrive. He keeps moving, though the idea of movement feels lighter now. The ground beneath him feels familiar, not because he has been here before, but because every place has begun to feel the same. Steps continue, quiet, even, almost unnecessary. The space around him feels wide and calm. Nothing draws focus. Nothing asks to be noticed. Light rests evenly across everything. It does not change. It does not fade. Breathing remains slow and natural, unforced, unnoticed. Thoughts no longer gather. If anything appears, it softens before taking shape. There is no edge to the world here, no border, no center, only a gentle continuation. He walks, and the world remains as it is. Time does not return. Nothing resumes. Everything stays calm, steady, and still. At first, nothing feels different. The world still looks the same. The ground remains steady beneath his feet. The light rests evenly across everything. He continues walking, as he has for a long time. Then very slowly, almost without meaning, something begins to shift. It is not movement, not sound, not change in position. It is a feeling, a subtle sense that the stillness is no longer absolute. He pauses, not because he needs to, but because the pause feels natural. The air feels slightly different, not warmer, not cooler, just less fixed. He takes another step. The ground responds in the same way, but the moment feels less preserved. He notices a sound, very faint, so faint it could almost be imagined. It is not loud. It does not startle him. It is simply present. He listens without focusing. Somewhere far away, something moves. A leaf does not fall, but it no longer feels perfectly suspended. Light does not shift, but it feels less permanent. He continues walking. With each step, the sense grows clearer. The world is no longer holding itself in place. It is beginning to breathe again. Time does not rush back. It does not resume suddenly. It returns slowly, as if it has forgotten how to move. He walks through a familiar space, a road, a line of trees. This time, the air feels gently alive. There is no wind yet, but the absence of wind feels temporary. He notices his own breathing, not because it changes, but because awareness of it returns. Steps feel more distinct. Moments feel slightly separated. Time is not fully present, but it is no longer gone. He continues forward calmly, allowing the world to adjust at its own pace. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to be understood. Time is finding its way back, quietly, without announcement. He keeps walking as time slowly settles back into the world. The movement around him is gentle. Nothing rushes. Nothing presses forward. The ground beneath his feet feels the same, yet subtly different, as if it now remembers being stepped on. He walks along a road that feels familiar, not because he has been here before, but because roads have always felt this way. The air moves slightly, not enough to be called wind, just enough to feel present. He notices that sounds exist again, very soft ones, so soft they do not demand attention. A distant echo, a faint shift somewhere far away. He does not look for the source. Walking remains enough. Buildings appear again, small ones at first, then larger ones. Windows reflect light that now feels less fixed. Shadows do not move quickly, but they no longer feel permanent. He passes a house. Inside, a chair rests near a table. Nothing dramatic happens. The world does not rush to become active. It simply resumes being available. He continues walking. People begin to move again, but not suddenly, not all at once. A hand lowers. A step completes itself. A posture relaxes. No one reacts to him. No one notices anything unusual. Time returns as if it had never left, and the memory of stillness remains private. He walks through a street that slowly fills with quiet motion. Doors open. Footsteps resume. Voices exist, but remain distant. He does not engage. He does not avoid. He simply passes through. The rhythm of walking remains unchanged, steady, unforced. Moments begin to stack again, but gently, without urgency. He notices that he can stop if he wants, so he does. Standing feels different now, more defined. He stands for a moment, then resumes walking. The world accepts both. He walks through places that are now active again. Shops function, lights adjust, sounds layer softly. Nothing feels overwhelming. He notices that his thoughts feel slightly clearer, but still slow. Memories appear without insistence. Not memories of events, but of sensations. The stillness, the quiet, the preserved world. He does not cling to them. They exist and then pass. He walks through a park. Leaves move slightly. Not much, just enough. Grass bends underfoot. It returns to its shape afterward. Time leaves traces again. He continues. Hours might pass, or minutes. It does not matter. Walking remains consistent. He crosses a bridge. Below, water moves slowly. Not fast, not loud. He watches briefly, then continues. The city gives way to open land again. Fields shift subtly in the distance. Clouds move so slowly, they almost feel still. The world now contains motion, but it is no longer demanding. He walks along a path without destination. There is no urgency to arrive anywhere. The idea of arrival feels unnecessary. He notices that even with time restored, nothing requires completion. Life resumes, but quietly. He walks through another town. People pass him. Some glance briefly. None stop. He blends into the movement. Walking becomes part of the rhythm again, rather than the only exception. He does not feel lost. He does not feel found. He simply exists in motion. The world continues to move around him. Days may pass, nights may return. Light changes slowly. Shadows stretch and shorten again. He notices these things without focus. They are present, and then replaced by other moments. He walks through evening, then morning. Sleep may come, or it may not. It does not matter. Walking remains. He finds himself returning to familiar places, though he does not remember choosing them. A street he has seen before, a path that feels known. The difference now is subtle. Time moves, but it does not dominate. He continues forward. Thoughts arise occasionally. They do not form questions. They do not demand answers. They exist, then fade. He walks past people living ordinary moments. Nothing feels urgent. Nothing feels dramatic. The extraordinary stillness remains a quiet memory, not something to explain. He does not try to tell anyone. The world does not ask. He walks through landscapes that now change slowly. Seasons may return, or they may not. It does not concern him. Walking feels enough. The rhythm of steps, the quiet awareness, the gentle presence of time. Everything exists together now. He continues walking through a world that moves again, carrying with him the calm of stillness, as time flows softly around him, without needing attention, without needing conclusion. He keeps moving, and the movement feels natural again. Walking is no longer the only thing that changes, but it remains the simplest thing to follow. The world around him continues to unfold quietly. Time passes, but it does so without urgency. He walks through a neighborhood where everyday life has resumed. Windows are open, curtains shift slightly. Light inside rooms changes as hours pass. Nothing dramatic happens. People move through small routines. Someone carries a bag. Someone closes a door. Someone pauses briefly, then continues. He walks past them without interruption. The rhythm of the world feels slow enough to rest within. Moments do not rush forward. They arrive, then make room for the next. He notices that walking now has weight again. Not physical weight, but meaning, a sense of presence. Each step lands in a moment that exists, then gently moves on. He walks along a street as evening approaches. The light grows softer. Colors fade slightly, then return again the next day. Night comes. Lights turn on. Sounds soften. He continues walking. Sleep may come to others. Shutters close. Rooms grow quiet. He remains awake, moving through spaces that rest. Morning returns gradually, not suddenly. Light grows slowly. Shadows shorten. The cycle resumes. He notices that time now repeats itself, but repetition does not feel restrictive. Days do not stack heavily. They pass lightly. He walks through a marketplace. Stalls open. People arrange items. Voices exist but remain distant and calm. Nothing demands his attention. He walks on. Roads lead outward again. Fields stretch wide. The same fields he crossed before, now subtly different. Grass bends. Wind passes briefly, then stops. Clouds move slowly across the sky. Their shapes change, but not dramatically. He walks beneath them. There is no pressure to understand what happened, no need to explain the stillness or the return of time. Both exist now as part of his experience. He does not compare. Comparison feels unnecessary. He walks through a small village. Houses feel lived in again. Signs of daily life return. Doors open, doors close, steps echo briefly. He continues forward. Time no longer feels like something separate. It blends into movement, into breathing, into awareness. He walks through a forest where leaves now fall occasionally. Not many, just enough to remind him that things change. The sound of a leaf touching the ground feels gentle, unimportant, acceptable. He walks through rain that begins lightly, then fades. Water touches the ground, then disappears. He notices that nothing lingers too long now. Everything moves on, but softly. He crosses another bridge. The water below reflects light that shifts slowly. Ripples form, then dissolve. He watches briefly, then continues walking. There is no sense of missing the still world. There is no sense of relief at its end. Both states feel complete in their own way. He walks through hours that feel ordinary, through days that do not need to be remembered. The world resumes complexity, but it does so gently. He blends into it. Walking becomes one activity among many, but it remains his chosen one. He walks because walking feels balanced, neither escape nor pursuit. He moves through places that no longer repeat exactly, but still feel familiar. Familiarity does not require sameness. He walks through another town, then another. Trains run again, cars move, schedules exist. He does not follow them. He keeps to his pace. Time continues. The world continues. He continues. There is no moment that signals an ending. No point where something concludes. Life simply keeps unfolding. He walks on, through a world where time has returned, yet calm remains possible, where movement does not erase stillness, and awareness rests quietly, as everything continues, without needing to stop. He continues walking, and the world continues with him. Time moves now, but it does not insist on being noticed. Days pass quietly, not marked by events, but by subtle changes in light and atmosphere. He walks through streets that feel lived in. Shops open, shops close, windows reflect different skies. Nothing calls for attention. He notices that routines have returned. People move with purpose, but not with urgency. Someone waits for a bus. Someone unlocks a door. Someone pauses, then continues. He walks past them all, unnoticed, unremarkable, and perfectly at ease with that. The rhythm of walking blends with the rhythm of the world. Steps align with moments. Moments align with breath. He walks through mornings, then afternoons, then evenings again. Night arrives softly. Lights appear one by one. Sounds settle into a lower register. He walks through the quiet parts of the city, places that exist mostly at night. Empty sidewalks, closed storefronts. The air feels calm. Time moves, but slowly. He walks through neighborhoods where nothing special happens. Houses stand quietly. Cars rest along the street. Curtains shift slightly. Life continues, but gently. He walks without thinking about distance, without measuring time, without planning the next step. Walking is no longer an escape. It is simply participation. He walks through weather that changes subtly, a light breeze, a passing cloud, a short rain that begins and ends without drama. Nothing lingers. He walks on. The world offers variety again, but it does not overwhelm. Streets differ, buildings change, landscapes shift, yet the feeling remains consistent. Calm, presence, continuity. He walks through another day, then another. Time passes, but it does not accumulate. It flows. He walks through it, without resistance, without effort, without expectation. The still world remains a quiet memory, not something lost, not something missed, just something that was. He continues walking, through a world that moves again, where time exists softly, and nothing ever needs to be resolved. He keeps moving, and the movement feels endless in the best possible way. There is no destination ahead, no point where walking becomes something else. The world unfolds in small, manageable moments, one after another, without pressure. He walks through familiar places, then unfamiliar ones, without needing to distinguish between them. Familiarity and novelty lose importance. What remains is motion, steady, reliable. He notices that his thoughts rarely form complete ideas. They appear, soft and unfinished, then dissolve. Awareness remains, but it is light. He walks through long stretches of quiet time. Nothing interrupts. Nothing requires response. Even when sounds appear, they remain distant, unintrusive. Time moves forward, but gently, without sharp edges. He walks through hours that do not demand memory, through days that do not need to be recalled. Everything exists, then passes. He walks through places that feel neutral, neither comforting nor uncomfortable, simply present. The balance feels right. Breathing stays even. Steps stay consistent. The world continues around him, but it does not lean in too close. He remains within it, without effort. Walking continues. Moments continue. Time continues. There is no signal to stop, no reason to change pace. Only the quiet continuation of being present, moving through a world that allows calm to exist. As time flows steadily, without urgency, without conclusion. He continues walking, and the walking itself becomes the main thing that exists. There's no clear reason to keep moving, and there does not need to be one. The movement happens naturally, without decision, without intention, without effort. Step follows step, and then another step follows that one. Each step feels nearly identical to the last. Not exactly the same, but close enough that the difference does not matter. The ground beneath him remains steady. It does not change texture abruptly. It does not demand attention. He notices the rhythm of walking, the slow, repeating pattern. Left foot, right foot, pause. Then again, left foot, right foot, pause. The repetition does not become boring. It becomes background. The world around him exists, but it does not insist on being observed. Buildings may pass. Open spaces may appear, but they do so quietly. He does not count distance. Distance feels meaningless. Time moves, but it moves slowly enough that it blends into motion. Moments stretch gently. They do not snap into place. They overlap softly. He walks through a space that feels familiar, even if he has never been there before. The familiarity does not come from memory. It comes from repetition. A road remains a road. A path remains a path. Nothing asks to be redefined. He notices that his breathing aligns with his steps. Not intentionally, it simply happens. Inhale, exhale, step, step, inhale, exhale, step, step. The rhythm settles into something steady and unremarkable. He continues walking. There is no clear scenery to describe because the scenery does not change in meaningful ways. Light remains soft. Shadows exist, but do not draw focus. The sky may be present, or it may be hidden. It does not change the experience. He walks. Thoughts arise slowly, without urgency. They do not form questions. They do not seek answers. A thought appears. It lingers briefly. Then it dissolves, replaced by the awareness of movement. Step, step, pause. Step, step, pause. The repetition continues. He becomes aware that walking does not need an endpoint. It can continue simply because it can. There is no internal pressure to stop. There is no external signal to continue. Movement exists in balance. The world allows him to pass through without resistance. Nothing blocks his way. Nothing redirects him. If the path curves, it does so gently. If it straightens, it does so without announcement. He follows without thought. The sensation of time passing becomes softer. Minutes lose their sharp edges. They blend together. He walks through what could be morning, then through what could be afternoon, then through what could be evening. The distinctions feel theoretical, not important. Light changes subtly, not enough to demand attention. He notices the repetition again, not as something new, but as something consistent. Consistency feels comforting. Step, step, pause, breath, breath, movement. The sound of his steps may exist, or it may not. It does not matter. What matters is that the movement continues without effort. He walks through spaces that do not leave an impression, and that feels right. Nothing needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be recorded. The experience exists only as it happens. He notices that even awareness feels lighter, less focused, more diffuse. Attention spreads out, rather than narrowing. He walks. Time continues to pass in the background. It does not push forward. It does not pull back. It simply accompanies the movement. Step follows step. Moment follows moment. There is no transition, no signal, no shift that needs to be marked. Only the continuation of walking. Steady, predictable, unremarkable, and calm. He continues walking, and the world continues to allow it, without interruption, without conclusion, without any need for change. He keeps walking, and the surroundings continue to repeat in quiet, familiar ways. The space ahead looks much like the space behind. Not identical, but similar enough that the difference feels unimportant. He moves through areas that feel open, then through areas that feel slightly closed, then open again. The alternation happens slowly, so slowly that it barely registers. Walls appear. They extend for a while, then they end. Open ground follows. It stretches calmly. Then it gives way to structure again. The pattern repeats. He walks without adjusting his pace. There is no reason to. The ground remains even. The air remains calm. Nothing interrupts the rhythm. Step, step, pause. Step, step, pause. The environment supports the movement. It does not resist. It does not redirect. He passes shapes that could be buildings, or could simply be boundaries in space. Their purpose does not matter. They exist. They remain. They are past. Light stays soft and consistent. It does not brighten suddenly. It does not fade quickly. Shadows rest where they are. They do not demand attention. He walks through another stretch of similar surroundings, then another, then another. Each one blends into the next. Time passes quietly in the background. It does not separate moments sharply. It allows them to overlap. Minutes merge. Then more minutes merge with them. He notices that location feels less specific now. Here feels like there. There feels like elsewhere. Everything connects smoothly. He walks past another long surface, then past another open space, then past another long surface again. The repetition continues without tension. There is no need to observe closely. Details exist, but they remain soft and distant. The world does not ask to be analyzed. He walks through a space that feels familiar, not because it is known, but because it repeats what came before. Repetition creates comfort. Step, step, pause. Breath aligns naturally with movement. No effort is required. The surroundings continue to offer the same gentle variations. Enough to exist, not enough to distract. He continues walking through repeating environments, through spaces that change slowly and predictably, supported by a world that allows motion to remain simple, steady, and calm, without interruption, without conclusion. He becomes aware of a steady feeling that remains with him as he walks. It is not a strong feeling, not an emotion that needs a name. It is simply present. The awareness sits quietly without pressure. It does not ask to be examined. It does not fade completely. He walks, and the feeling stays with him. It feels like a calm weight, not heavy, not light, balanced. The sensation does not change much. When it shifts, it does so slowly that the shift almost disappears. He notices it while walking, then he forgets it. Then he notices it again. The noticing does not require effort. Step, step, pause. Breath moves in and out, naturally, evenly. The feeling remains. He walks through moments where awareness feels wider, then through moments where it feels narrower. The difference is subtle. Neither state lasts long enough to matter. The sensation continues beneath thought, beneath attention, beneath intention. It does not interrupt walking. It supports it. He walks and the feeling accompanies the movement. It feels like a quiet center, not fixed in one place, not tied to any specific thought. It moves with him. He notices that when thoughts arise, the feeling remains unchanged. Thoughts come and go, the sensation stays. He walks through stretches of time where nothing stands out. During these moments, the feeling feels most present. It fills the background, softly. He walks without trying to adjust it. There is nothing to adjust. The feeling does not grow stronger. It does not fade away. It remains consistent. He notices it again, then again, then again. Each time it feels familiar, not because it is remembered, but because it never left. He walks through moments where awareness drifts slightly. Even then, the feeling stays nearby. It waits without waiting. It exists without effort. He continues walking, and the sensation continues with him. It becomes part of the rhythm, like breath, like movement. Left foot, right foot, pause, breath in, breath out. The feeling remains. Time passes quietly around it. Minutes move forward, then more minutes. The sensation does not mark time. It simply exists within it. He notices that even when the world changes slightly, the feeling stays the same. Light may shift, sound may appear, then fade. The sensation remains untouched. He walks through another stretch of quiet awareness, then another. The repetition does not feel dull. It feels stabilizing. The feeling provides continuity, not excitement, not meaning, just continuity. He walks and the awareness continues to accompany him, soft, steady, and present, without asking for attention, without needing explanation, without any reason to change. The passage of time becomes noticeable again, but only in the softest possible way. It begins as something that could be called morning, though nothing announces it clearly. Light feels slightly different. The air feels gently renewed. He walks as the day begins, without marking the beginning as important. Movement continues as it always has. Step follows step, breath follows breath. Morning does not arrive suddenly. It unfolds slowly, layer by layer. Sounds exist, but they remain distant. The world does not rush to become active. He walks through this quiet beginning of the day, noticing that the light feels thinner, more open, less settled. Time moves forward, but it does not pull him with it. As hours pass, the feeling of morning blends into something else. Not quite afternoon yet, just a continuation. He keeps walking. The day grows fuller, but not louder. Shadows shorten slightly. Light feels more present. He walks through this part of the day without changing pace, without changing direction. There is no task associated with this time, no expectation, No schedule. Time passes simply because it does. Midday exists quietly. It does not demand recognition. He walks through it as he walked through the morning. Breath remains even. Steps remain steady. The world feels open, but not stimulating. Alive, but not insistent. The day continues its slow progression. Gradually, almost without notice, the quality of light begins to soften again. The sense of fullness recedes slightly. The air feels calmer, more settled. He walks into what could be called afternoon, though the distinction feels gentle, almost theoretical. Time continues to move, but the movement feels smooth, unbroken. He notices that the rhythm of walking fits easily within the rhythm of the day. Neither one disrupts the other. Afternoon stretches quietly. Moments lengthen. Minutes blur together. Nothing significant happens, and nothing needs to. He walks through this long, uneventful span of time, supported by the consistency of movement. As the day continues, light slowly loses its intensity. Colors soften, edges blur slightly. Evening approaches, not as a change, but as a gradual shift. He walks through this transition without marking it. The world grows quieter. Sounds thin out. Movement around him slows. Lights appear, one by one, without urgency. He walks through evening with the same steady pace he carried through the day. Time feels slower now, more forgiving. The sense of activity fades. The sense of rest grows. He continues walking as night begins to take shape. Darkness does not fall. It settles. The air cools slightly. The world contracts gently. He walks through night without hesitation. The absence of light does not interrupt movement. It supports it. Night stretches wide and calm. Hours pass without distinction. The world feels held, contained. He walks through this extended quiet, through a time that does not ask anything of him. Eventually, the sense of night begins to soften. Not ending, just loosening. A hint of light returns, barely noticeable. The psyche prepares to begin again. He continues walking, through time that flows gently from one state into another, through days that do not demand attention, supported by the steady rhythm of movement, as time continues, quietly, without interruption, without conclusion. He finds himself moving through places that feel familiar again, not because he remembers them clearly, but because they resemble what he has already passed through. The resemblance is gentle, not exact, close enough. He walks along a stretch of ground that feels like many stretches before it. The same kind of openness, the same quiet balance between space and structure. He does not try to identify where he is. Location feels unimportant. What matters is the repetition. The path continues forward. It could turn. It could remain straight. Either way, the experience stays consistent. He walks past surroundings that echo earlier ones. Walls that feel similar. Open areas that feel familiar. Distances that feel measured in the same way. The world seems to reuse its own patterns. He notices this repetition, and instead of resisting it, he settles into it. Repetition feels stabilizing. Step, step, pause. Breath in, breath out. The same rhythm continues. He walks through a place that feels almost identical to one he passed through before. If there are differences, they are too small to matter. The sensation of déjà vu does not create confusion. It creates calm. The world loops gently around him. He walks through spaces that feel known, even though he has no memory of first encountering them. The feeling of familiarity does not come from recognition. It comes from continuity. He continues moving, and the environment continues to offer the same kinds of spaces, arranged in slightly different ways. Paths, open ground, structures at a distance. Each combination feels acceptable. None demand attention. He walks through another familiar stretch, then another. The repetition does not exhaust him. It reduces effort. Awareness softens as patterns repeat. Time feels less linear here. Moments do not stack, they circle. He walks through what feels like a return, even though nothing was ever left behind. The same light quality appears again, the same quiet atmosphere. the same balance of movement and stillness. He walks through it all without urgency. The world does not progress toward anything specific. It cycles gently through itself. He notices that even his thoughts repeat. Not exact thoughts, but similar ones. They arise, they fade. They arise again, slightly altered. The repetition feels natural. He walks through another loop of surroundings, then another. Each one blends into the next. There is no marker to signal a new phase. No clear beginning, no clear end. The repetition exists as a continuous flow. He continues walking, through environments that repeat softly, through experiences that circle rather than advance, supported by a world that allows patterns to return, again and again, without disruption, without conclusion. He continues walking, and the walking no longer feels like an action. It feels like a state that simply exists. Movement happens, but it does not progress toward anything. It repeats itself gently, over and over, without friction. Step follows step. Then another step follows, and then another. The pattern remains steady. Left foot, pause. Left foot, right foot, pause. Breathing settles into the same quiet rhythm. In, out, nothing interrupts it. The world around him feels stable, not fixed, not changing quickly, just steady enough to remain in the background. He moves through spaces that do not require attention. They exist to support movement, not to distract from it. The same kinds of surroundings appear again, and then again, and then again. Open areas, soft boundaries, gentle transitions between one space and the next. He notices that repetition no longer feels like repetition. It feels like continuity. Moments blend together, not because they are forgotten, but because they do not need to be separated. Time flows, but it does not advance in sharp steps. It circles softly, returning to familiar points. He walks through a stretch of awareness that feels very similar to the one before it, and then through another stretch that feels much the same. Differences exist, but they are too subtle to matter. The experience becomes smooth. Thoughts arise occasionally. They are simple, unfinished. They do not connect to one another. A thought appears. It rests briefly. Then it fades. Another thought appears. It follows the same path. Then it fades as well. The space between thoughts grows longer, quieter. Walking continues in the background. The world does not ask for interpretation. It does not ask to be understood. It simply allows movement to continue. He walks through time that feels wide and open. There are no markers, no milestones, no transitions that need to be acknowledged. The sense of before and after softens. Everything feels like now. Step, step, pause, breath, movement. The rhythm repeats and repetition feels safe. There is no pressure to stay aware. There is no pressure to drift away. Both states are allowed. The world continues to provide the same gentle environment. Enough variation to exist, not enough to disrupt calm. He walks through another familiar feeling stretch, then another, then another. Each one blends seamlessly into the next. The repetition becomes soothing, predictable, reliable. Time continues its quiet movement. It does not hurry. It does not stop. He continues walking within it, supported by the steady rhythm of motion, by the softness of repeated experience, by the absence of anything that needs to change. The walking goes on. The world remains accommodating. The rhythm continues. There is no signal that anything is ending. There is no indication that something new must begin. Only the continuation of movement, the continuation of breath, and the continuation of a calm presence, repeating gently, again and again, without interruption, without conclusion.